Alright, good morning folks, this is Jason with the Primal Outdoors channel, and I've been setting up the old Ford truck to go back out and start doing some camping trips with it again. I want to start breaking up some of the content that I'm showing on the channel so that I still have some van life videos, but I also want some more basic camping style content to show you guys as well. But one thing I'm not quite willing to get rid of is the using a refrigerator when I'm out. I'm just not willing to go back to an ice chest after the convenience of using a fridge. So I knew I was going to need a way to power that, but I also need a way to power the camera gear that I take out there so that I can actually get the content out to you guys. So when Blue Yeti offered to send me their new Premium 200 version 2, I thought it might be just the perfect unit for the old Ford, so that way I could power the fridge, keep my camera gear and any other accessories all charged up. Now I recently took the old Ford out, and I'm going to tell you guys what worked, what didn't work as well as I hoped, and how I set this thing up so that it can charge fast when I'm in the field. But first, before we get into that, let's just go over the specs so you guys know what we're working with. The Blue Yeti Premium 200 version 2 has a capacity of 2,073.6 watt hours. It provides a continuous output of 2,700 watts and supports a surge load up to 4,050 watts. Operating noise is rated at 16 decibels. It includes 9 output ports, 4 AC outlets, 2 USB-A ports, 2 USB-C ports rated at 100 watts each, and 1 12-volt car-style port. The unit is equipped with a pure sine wave inverter and a built-in uninterruptible power supply function that switches within 15 milliseconds. Battery chemistry is an automotive-grade LiFePO4. The unit is rated for over 6,000 charge cycles to 80%. It uses CNAS certified cells that meet 33 automotive-grade power cell standards. The charging options include AC input with full charge time of approximately 1.4 hours and solar input support up to 1,000 watts. When you use both AC and solar input simultaneously, the Turbo Boost feature allows charging up to 80% in approximately 45 minutes. Alternatively, the Charger One accessory supports up to 560 watts of input from a vehicle's alternator while driving. Standard power consumption is rated at approximately 10 watts. The system includes a multi-chip protection and supports up to 60 volt and 20 amp PV input. The casing is constructed from a flame retardant ABS materials, and the AC power output includes integrated leakage protection. Alright folks, so as far as installation went in the old Ford, all I did is set this in the back seat. I folded my seats down and I kind of made a flat platform, and this sits back there along with my refrigerator. The one thing I did install into the truck was Blue Yeti's Charger One. It's a DC to DC specifically designed to be able to charge these units a lot faster. Now on previous models of power stations that I've used, you can only really charge through solar when you're on the road or by plugging into the cigarette lighter port. And the cigarette lighter port just didn't put out that much power. I mean, it was better than nothing, but you were looking at like maybe 80 to 90 watts max that you were going to get out of that. With the Charger One, I can get up to 560 watts while charging. So that means when I'm moving from site to site, I'm getting a lot more charge into the unit, which is definitely going to extend how long you're going to be able to stay out and keep powered up with a unit like this. It was a pretty easy installation because the Charger One can be mounted pretty much anywhere in the vehicle, and it's just a matter of connecting the cord that comes with it, the power cord that comes with it, to the positive and negative of your battery, finding a way to route it back to where you want the Charger One to be. One thing you should probably keep in consideration is the cord is only 16 foot, so be aware of that. It's just a positive negative cable. I believe it was a 6 gauge. You could provide your own and go for a longer run if you needed to, but if you're using their cord with all the connections on it, you're going to be limited to 16 feet. But I made that work. I just ran it down along my frame rail and then popped it up through a factory grommet and then connected it directly into the Charger One. It's a really easy install, and again, as long as you are comfortable with hooking a positive and negative wire together, it doesn't take a lot of technical expertise to do it. But it just gives you so much faster charging on the road and makes, again, I think makes a unit like this just way more useful. So as I mentioned, I did take this out on a one-night trip with the Ford already, and the things that I like about it is, first of what I've already talked about, is the ability to add the Charger 1. To me, that is the biggest pro about this unit. It's not really specific to this unit because the Charger 1 works on some of the other Blue Yetis as well. But man, it's what really sets Blue Yeti apart from other manufacturers as far as I'm concerned, is the ability to charge at such a fast rate. In the end, if you're on the road and you run out of power with one of these, you know, you just got a brick you're carrying around and you're not able to keep your fridge or other components up to snuff. So being able to charge at 560 watts is just a game changer, and one of the main reasons why I accepted doing this review for them was just because of the fact it had that DC to DC, and I knew I would never run out of power as long as I could run the truck every now and then or move locations every now and then. Couple other things that obviously I like about it. I like the form factor. This unit has fixed handles, and in other units I've used in the past, fixed handles have been kind of awkward and weird. I really like Blue Yeti's implementation of this because it keeps the unit very uniform, yet gives you two extremely solid handles to work with. Another feature I like about this unit is it does have a Bluetooth app, so I can monitor everything that's going on as far as how much power it's using, how much power that's going out. I can turn the ports on and off. And I would like to note as well as the Charger 1 also has its own Bluetooth app, so I can even monitor it as I'm going along to see how much power is being pushed into the unit. But you actually can see that as well from the main Bluetooth app on this unit as well, because you're going to see how much power you're receiving. And then the last thing that I really like about this unit is that it just has so much capacity. At 2,073 watt hours, that's equivalent to about 170 amp hours of battery life on a 12 volt. Like if you just had a regular 12 volt lithium, it's 170 or so amp hours. So for the average person going on an overlanding trip, running a refrigerator and powering some camera gear and some other accessories, it's going to give you a lot of capacity. Alright, now let's get into some things that actually did not work as well as I had hoped, or I didn't really like the way they did work. Now the first thing that really surprised me is I was not able to charge my Mavic 3 with the 100 watt PD ports. I didn't have any problem with any other units, even plugging in my MacBook, but for whatever reason, when I turn on the DC port, plug in a USB cord, and then plug into the Mavic 3, to charge it, you'll see the lights start to kick on, and then the DC port starts giving you an error and basically shuts off the unit. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I tried it obviously just like this, where you can see plugging straight into the Mavic 3. I also tried it with my third-party battery charger that I actually use most of the time with my Mavic 3, and it did the same thing. Now I can use my wall wart that I have for my MacBook, and I can plug it into the AC and it works fine. It only pulls 60 watts, so it should be well within the capability of this 100 watt PD port, but every time I plug it in, I get that same error when doing that. But again, I charged lots of different things, cell phones, camera gear, lighting, you know, just everything I could come up with that I had in the van, and nothing else gave me that issue. It's only the Mavic 3, so don't really know what that is. Alright folks, real quick, I'm going to interject here because I did send this issue to Blue Yeti, make them aware of it. They were able to spend a couple days on the problem and come up with a solution to fix it. They sent me out a new firmware update, so now when I plug my drone in, I have no issue. It no longer shuts off the port, and it charges at about 70 to 80 watts. So I'm real happy with that. Good job, Blue Yeti, for taking care of this issue. My only point here might be is if you do get one of these units, just verify that your firmware is up to date in the app. But that leads me to the other thing that I don't like about this thing, and that is when that error happened, this DC button controls all of the DC functions of the unit. So that includes your 12 volt 10 amp cigarette lighter port, which my refrigerator was plugged into. So when I plugged in the Mavic and this port failed, it actually cut power to this as well, which cut power to the refrigerator. So I don't really like the fact that they've got the DC input on, or this DC button controls both inputs. Other units I've used in the past, they've had those separated so that the USB and the 12 volt port are separate. I think I would prefer that. That way I know that my refrigerator hopefully is not being affected by anything else going on the unit. And then the last thing that I would really like to see improved about units like this is more DC outputs. You know, the only options you have are the USB ports and this 10 amp cigarette lighter port, which I don't even like these cigarette lighter ports for plugging in your refrigerator, because a lot of times when you're on the backcountry bouncing around, these ports have a tendency to come loose, and you might find that your refrigerator is unplugged when you get to camp, and who knows how long it's been unplugged. So I don't like that. I would really like to see more thought put into DC connections. I think this unit has enough power that a person building a part-time adventure van or a part-time adventure rig could run their entire setup on this unit at 170 some odd amp hours. So if they came up with some kind of separate bus system that would plug into like the side or the back or something like that, that would allow you to mount that separate bus system somewhere in the vehicle and then hardwire some components or accessories to that, I think that would be a great option, and it would make it to where maybe you could use this as your complete dedicated house power system. I think like most van lifers like myself, or people that are going to want to build some kind of adventure van, you're going to want a fan, you're going to want lighting, you're going to want a refrigerator, possibly a water pump, and possibly your heating system will need 12 volts as well. So being able to hardwire all those units to a separate bus that could then be connected to the side of the unit, I think would be great. That would also allow it to be able to unplug easily, just like the DC charger. You can unplug it from the PV port. If they had something like that to where you could just unplug that, that would still leave this being really portable. So when you come back from a trip, you could still bring this in for storage or charging. And I think that would be great. I think I would prefer a separate unit versus them doing something on the unit, so I don't have to plug all those things in every time I bring the unit back in. Anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts on that. I definitely feel like most of these units, they put more of their thought process into just AC, but like I said, I think for most people, I think this unit has all the power and capability if it just had more flexibility in what you can and how you could power your DC accessories. All right, so now that we've kind of covered the pros and the cons that I found with the unit, I do want to just cover a couple quick tips for you guys when using this, especially using the app. Now the app defaults to use the cloud like you're going to be on Wi-Fi, which seems a little bit odd to me because who's going to be on Wi-Fi when you're out in the backcountry? It should default, in my opinion, to Bluetooth, but you actually can set that within the app. You can go to the settings, change the default from cloud to Bluetooth, and then that way when every time you go into your phone and click on the unit, you'll be able to, it'll automatically just launch instead of you saying that no Wi-Fi is available and then you happen to click on Bluetooth. It just creates an extra step. So anyways, that's one little tip. Another little tip, when I was out using this in the Ford in this last trip, it was chilly at night, and so the unit ended up shutting off because the refrigerator never cycled. It does have an option in eco mode that you can access within the app, and there's some settings you can change there. Now you can only set it as low as 5 watts, which still wasn't low enough to keep my refrigerator going, but you can also play with the time before it shuts off. But the longest time it has available is 4 hours, which was already set for. So what I ended up doing is just shutting that feature off for the DC ports. That way, pretty much when I turn the DC port on, it's going to stay on until I shut it off. I think it would be nice if they would just give us like 10 hours as an option, so that way it did have a default shut off, and I think 10 hours would be plenty. But like I said, the biggest problem is if you're dealing with a situation like that, you might wake up in the morning, not realize that your refrigerator shut off in the night, or that this shut off in the night, and if you don't remember to check it, you could find that you get into the day and things start warming up and your fridge has been off the whole time. Anyways, maybe go in there, shut that port off, or maybe they'll do a firmware update down the line, giving us more time that we can switch it to. All right, so kind of my final summary, kind of wrap up on this is it's definitely a robust unit. Has all the amp hours and capacity that I feel like a person who's going out camping or even considering using this for a adventure vehicle build will need. It's got the Charger 1, which really, again, sets this thing apart in allowing you to fast charge on the road, which I think is key. The one thing, again, that I feel like it's lacking is DC ports and ways that we can actually build this into our adventure vehicle builds. You know, you got plenty of AC ports, you got some USB ports that are handy, the DC port, that's 10 amp. I mean, definitely there's accessories out there that we can use that for, but if we wanted to actually consider this as a serious adventure vehicle house power system, it needs a way for us to be able to connect more fixed accessories like fans, refrigerators, heaters, lighting, all of that. And if they could make it to where it could be connected to the Bluetooth app to where you could actually control all those ports, that would even be better. All right, folks, so this wraps up my review on the BLUETTI Premium 200 version 2. If you guys are interested in this unit, you can check out my link in the description. If you are a retailer or distributor that might be interested in partnering with BLUETTI, you can check out the QR code that is on the screen now. And like I said, I am looking forward to getting out and doing some more trips with the old Ford truck. There are some other pieces of gear that didn't quite work the way I wanted. We'll be making some changes down the line, and I'll be sharing that information as we go. Anyhow, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video and found something useful about it. If you did, please do give it a like. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those down below, and we'll see you guys again outside.